Welcome to Weird Web Radio, an explorer's guide to hidden worlds of the paranormal and occult, reality-expanding experiences, and the downright weird and bizarre. With your host, Lonnie Scott.
Nobody asked how to pronounce your name.
That's right. All right, guys, we are recording. Welcome to Weird Web Radio. It's awesome to have you here.
Cool. It's great to be here.
It's great to be here.
All right. Real quick, so folks know who you are. Today we are talking to the musical duo Charming Disaster, made up of, well, two incredibly charming individuals who insist they're into the dark, right? Mm-hmm. According to the bio, you say you're a Brooklyn-based musical duo, Charming Disaster, formed in 2012 by Ellia and Jeff Morris. Jeff says it's pronounced Jeff.
That's right.
We're inspired by the gothic humor of Edward Gorey and Tim Burton, the murder ballads of the Americana tradition, the dramatic flair of the cabaret. They write songs that tell stories, use two voices to explore dark narratives and characters with a playfully macabre sensibility. Looks like you have done quite a bit. You've been at it for a while. You've been featured on Welcome to Night Vale. I love that show.
Oh, yeah.
Very cool.
We've been honored to be on it twice, actually.
Yeah,
once at the very beginning and once more.
I've never looked at an Arby's the same since I heard that show.
That's right.
It says you've opened for legendary cello rock ensemble. Is it Rasputina? Rasputina. Right. Goth icon Voltaire and punk cabaret duo the Dresden Dolls. Their theatrical, entertaining live performances have captivated audiences across the United States. You've played, looks like, every possible format a duo could play music. Recent appearances include Joe's and Number 39 Pub at the Public Theater in NYC, Brooklyn's historic Greenwood Cemetery. You played in a cemetery?
The historic Greenwood Cemetery in New York City.
Interesting. Mm-hmm. We may dig into that in a minute.
Mm-hmm.
The Rochester Fringe Festival, Philly's Science History Institute, the Edgar Allan Poe Museum in Richmond, Virginia, Cleveland's Whiz Bang Circus Theater, and the Coney Island Sideshow Stage. I couldn't even say that word if I tried. Mm-hmm. All right. That is quite a bio.
Yeah, we get around.
Yeah, we've been at it.
Get around. All right. Well, I guess we're going to start where I like to start. Hauntings. That's first rule around here. So, have either of you ever experienced a haunting or what you would call paranormal phenomena?
I'll go first and say that I have not. I've had many friends and I've had experiences where, people will come up and describe something that happened to them that is out of the ordinary or, paranormal in the sense, but I have not had anything happen to me yet. I'm open to that, but I don't know what kind of charmed bubble I live in, but
that's okay.
Nothing happened to me.
Yeah.
I have also not, although because of the nature of the music that we write and perform, it is pretty typical after show that people will come up to us and share a story of theirs where they have been haunted. And some of them, like, really vivid too. A woman who described being kissed on the lips by a ghost who had once worn the dress she had borrowed, and that the lips were ice blue, like Vicks Vapor Rub, she said.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like a lot of really interesting stories. We seem to attract them, the stories, if not the hauntings.
Yeah, that's all right. It's you two and Mitch Horowitz. I don't know if you know who Mitch is, but he's been one guest on the show who, oddly enough, is also from, I think, Brooklyn, who has not experienced what's wrong in Brooklyn.
I did, having said that, like, there was this, I don't know, I've always considered myself more of a skeptic, but like in the last few years, I think I've grown a little more open to certain possibilities. And there was a moment where I was in my house and something fell, like, kind of spontaneously. And look, like, I have cats and like things shift. It's an old house. But like it really surprised me when this thing fell, when there was no good reason for it to have fallen. And I addressed the possible spirit. I don't know if I said,
What'd you say?
I'm trying to remember what I said. It was like sort of the like with an attitude that like you have to be kind of no nonsense with them. Like
that was not appreciated.
Is that what I did? I tell you, yeah.
Yeah, you did tell me.
Yeah.
I think that was not appreciated.
Yeah, like you can't like be intimidated by them, but like you don't want to like escalate things either.
Yeah, I always feel it's a good rule to have like kind of the Eddie Murphy attitude towards a unwanted noisy ghost. Like, this is my house, and if you don't like it, get the fuck out.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, I sort of feel like it's like with cats too. Like you know, maybe they're testing your limits, and like you have to like you know draw a line.
Yeah, Aidan Walker, who's been a guest on my show a few times, wrote a series of incredible books. The first time he was on the show, we got into this, and he suggested, he goes, if you've got a real noisy ghost, kind of something messing with your house, you think it might be that, then you can go make a kind of an offering, you know, light a candle, put out a glass of water or something, and say, look, this is my house, and these are my rules. Now, I appreciate you like to make noise. So how about if someone breaks into the house, or someone not in the family, or someone's too close to the house, it's not part of the family or friends, raise all hell. You know? Otherwise, just chill.
Yeah, like a guard ghost.
Yeah, he kind of makes a deal with him, says, and on this cycle, I'm going to give you this gift, and so on. I thought that was a pretty cool way to approach it.
Yeah, we've had friends kind of describe their you know techniques of placating poltergeists, and that is one of them, to create a little offering for them. You know, there was one friend of ours who built a little house, and like populated this little room. It was a little room with, you know, with whiskey and books and things, like real whiskey, little jars.
Was that a Trundle Manor?
That was a Trundle Manor.
Yeah. And
then they had no problems with their poltergeist. They made a little room for it, and with a chair, like recreated the room that they were in often, where they had these hauntings.
That's awesome.
It was never a problem after that.
Excellent. I hope everyone's paying attention. Take notes here.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be tricky.
Doesn't have to be tricky.
Doesn't have to be tricky at all. Of all the different places that you guys have played and things, like, do you very often encounter stories of like, this place has got a weird past, like a ghost in this house stage or that room or stuff like that?
Oh, yeah. Definitely. It's one of the perks of being a band like us, is that if somebody has a story like that, they know that we are likely to be interested. And one that immediately comes to mind is there's a fetish club in Richmond called Fallout, where they do goth shows and other events, and we play there from time to time when we're passing through Richmond. And one of the bartenders, she works at the historic Bird Theater in Richmond as well as a projectionist. And she, after we played a show at Fallout one night, she was like closing up the bar. I mean, it's real late, it's like 2 a.m, and she says, do you want to come check out the Bird Theater with me? I've got the keys. It's haunted. And we were like,
okay,
let's go. So she took us up into the projection booth, and she pointed out where, like, because it's this old theater, so there's like 2 levels, and she pointed to a seat where there, like, that is the ghost seat. Was it like the owner, the like original owner?
I think it was the original owner or original manager or something like that. That was his seat that he sat in. And
like people will like notice like a
people
form
see him,
sitting,
like, oh yeah, there's her,
right? Or like or she was like, you'll be alone in the theater, and like you'll look up, and like it looks like there's somebody sitting in that seat, and like you go up to like tell whoever fell asleep in the movie that like it's time to go home, and there's nobody there.
That's right.
Well, that's great. Yeah. I like that. All right, so here's where I probably cross streams from some other interviews you've been in. I got to get to know you a little bit, right? So, where does the name Charming Disaster come from? If I remember correctly, you guys got your start in 2012.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, when we had started this band, we were coming up with lots of, trying to find a band name and coming up with lots of ideas. And
Yeah, we sort of
weren't working.
We sort of knew what the parameters of the band were going to be. Like, we knew that we wanted to tell stories. We knew that the kinds of stories that interested us tended to go dark. Like when we made our first list of songs, like, it was all like, somebody's murdered somebody, and like they don't know what to do about it.
Yeah,
and
here's a living person in love with a ghost, or
and so in trying to find names that kind of spoke to the themes that we were interested in, we came up with Hindenburg Baby. Yeah, that was one. Oh, Funeral Parlor, that was another one. But Funeral Parlor felt a little too like niche,
cutesy.
like too like Americana or something.
Yeah,
and like
true.
Musically we didn't want to pigeonhole ourselves. And then Hindenburg Baby seemed fun because it sort of like had a little bit of playfulness to it, but also seemed like very like rooted in a particular moment in time. And so we were like, well, what are some other disasters? Like, let's look up other disasters that like maybe we could. There's the General Slocum disaster, which was like a riverboat. And then I was looking at a website. I think it was actually a site about the General Slocum disaster.
Yeah, and it was in Japanese.
It had been like badly translated by a machine from some other language. And the phrase "charming the disaster" like appeared, and it was such a strange turn of phrase. And "charming the disaster" became "charming disaster."
Yeah,
and like there's a few good things about it, right? Like you've got the duality, the juxtaposition of light and dark. Charming the light, disaster the dark. The sort of Janus head of like the the dualities that we like to explore. And also you have the idea of charming, like beguiling,
like charming a snake.
Yeah. Like, are you invoking the disaster on purpose?
Yeah. Or are you, ameliorating the situation? You're trying to like,
talking it down, calming down your poltergeist.
Calming down.
Yeah. So. That's interesting. Charming the disaster. I like that. There's a series called Hellier. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. No. If you haven't, it's on Amazon Prime, YouTube. It's won a ton of awards. It's an independent investigative series looking into first like reports of creatures coming out of caves bothering the people in Kentucky, and it turns into Mothman prophecies and all kinds of crazy shit in this adventure. Anyway, I'm in 2 episodes of the 2nd season. I'm also a professional hypnotist, and one of them I hypnotized a guy to believe he'd been abducted by aliens. And we put him through a scenario, and it was a horrible scenario for him. Much apologies, Jason. He's okay these days, I think. Anyway, people have asked if they think like if through an experiment like that, if I was inviting or we were inviting something more sinister, I guess, to happen other than just going through a trip in his imagination.
I think so, right.
Yeah. I mean, it just immediately came to mind when we were talking about Charming the Disaster.
Charming the Disaster.
Yeah. So before you're Charming the Disaster, you set up this idea to have the musical performance and songs to tell stories. You got a love of stories from somewhere. Who were you before you were Charming Disaster, and how did this love of stories develop?
Well, both Ellie and I were the band leaders of our own bands at the time, which were much larger projects. I had a band called Coderino, which had up to 11 different members at any given time, which had bass, drums, horn, a horn section, strings, background singers, a musical saw player, a harpist. Like a lot of people came and went. And I was a sole songwriter for that, and the musical writer. I wrote all the parts out for everyone. And that was more about like songs about my own problems, about my life, about the things that I, think about and worry about, very personal songs, kind of, and lushly arranged. And then I met Ellia at a bar.
And my band, Sweet Soubrette, also was like a large, sprawling project with, we were as much as an 8-piece with strings and horns and bass and keys. And I play the ukulele and was the sole songwriter. And Sweet Soubrette, some of the songs were like my own kind of life experiences, but I also was interested in storytelling in that band, specifically stories about bad women,
what's a woman got to do to be bad? to be a bad
like,
woman.
like a song from the perspective of the mermaid who is probably going to drown the sailor. A song from the perspective of the home wrecker. A song from the perspective of, Anais Nin, a sort of famous bad woman of letters. I was interested in exploring those archetypes. Oh, Gold Digger. There's a Gold Digger song. It was like a very particular lens. And then when we came together, because we each had a project already to kind of explore our like personal, like, experiences, expression through, we didn't like need a project to like express ourselves with, but we really wanted to work together because we really liked each other's music and each other's songwriting. And as a songwriter, to like find another songwriter that you want to work with is such a rare and special thing.
But we barely knew each other.
We just met
when we had decided to make this project, and because we didn't know each other, it was also easier to have
a sort of
framework and stories, and like, to work with narratives that weren't actually our own, supposedly our own narratives.
And as for what those stories were, well, it turned out we both read a lot, and like, and we had like a lot of overlapping interests, which have only gotten more overlapping over the years as we now, as we like pass books back and forth. We're like, oh, you've got to read this. Oh, you've got to read this. Mm-hmm. And so, I've always been like a science fiction fantasy junkie, like a lot of like YA fantasy. And I still like to, that's still my like junk food of choice when I'm just doing sort of pleasure reading. But a lot of mythology and, folklore. Folklore, and like a lot of like the fiction that sort of draws from folklore and mythology too. I mean, I think that was a gateway drug for me for a lot of that stuff, where the first time you learn about something is in like Piers Anthony or something, and you're like, what's a like let me look that up and like read them. And also we liked French films and things of the kind of like dynamic duo of film and stuff, and like about crime and like jewel thieves and all this kind cat
of
burglars,
spies,
film noir.
So we made a list of like possible ideas, and that was really helpful in like just getting to know someone and like work with someone and have a framework to kind of interact with and not be too personal, and like I don't know this person, I'm not gonna like pour my heart and soul out to this person. Damn it.
Gotcha.
I guess that plan backfired.
Yeah, it totally backfired. But when you're trying to write songs for two narrative voices as well as two literal voices, you end up saying things like, oh, like we should do a song about Osiris and Isis. Like that's an interesting
that's
couple.
A good story.
Like,
everyone knows that. Everyone wants to get into that.
Everyone knows that. I often forget when I'm talking to people. Not everyone's in all the weird shit that I'm into.
What I love is when we play a show, like, sometimes we'll like introduce stuff and sometimes we'll just play it, and then we're at a brewery or something, and like at the end of the show, like the two like classics majors like come and find us, and like, we loved your song about Orpheus and Eurydice. It's nice to give people a chance to find new people.
Totally.
That is funny. Yeah. So if you're both kind of one of those, you've got to read this people, you read a lot. What's one book from each of you that people listening have just got to read?
There's Stranger Norrell, I would say.
That one's so good.
That's
Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, Susanna Clark. Yeah, that's really good. I just ate all the Gideon the Ninth books, which are more recent, which are, if you like lesbian necromancers in space, like that's
who doesn't?
Oh my God, they're so fun.
That's my bumper sticker.
It's so much bigger than that.
Yeah, I know.
It's so good.
Little Big is a book that I come back to again and again. That's John Crowley. That was a book that was gifted to me when when I was 13. It was a bat mitzvah present from a friend of my parents, and I reread that every so often, and it really holds up.
Angela Carter.
Oh my God,
anything
yes.
She writes,
anything Angela Carter.
Especially Nights at the Circus is really great.
I love that book.
Oh, isn't it
yes.
so good? It's so good.
Yes, I didn't remember the name of the author until you said the title. It's...
Well, the cool thing that Angela Carter, what she does in a lot of her writing, besides being such a expressive and beautiful writer, is that she'll draw from folk tales and kind of retell them in more empowering ways. And it's just so, I mean, it's great. It's just beautiful.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree completely.
Yeah.
It's so funny when you're spitting out some of these names. When you said it's like lesbian necromancers in space, my normal response to someone saying that would be, "That's a great band name."
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It would be a good band name.
That
yeah,
could be your
just
side project.
Yeah, just because we do have an actual band that we're in does not mean that we are immune from like creating imaginary bands with imaginary band names. We have a few.
That's
good.
Right.
I'm glad to hear it. Okay, so in your bio, there's a thing about Americana folk tradition, the murder ballads of American folk tradition. Mm-hmm. I don't know anything about this.
Oh,
what is this macabre, horrifying sounding thing, and how have I missed it? What's it sound like?
The murder ballad starts out in the British Isles. It's related to something called a broadsheet ballad. Broadsheets were like the tabloid newspapers of the day. And so something usually bad and violent would happen, and it would become a song. And these songs, which frequently are about murders, and and many of them came out of like real things that happened, although they evolved over years and years. Then they came over to the United States when people immigrated from the British Isles, and it became a kind of Appalachian musical tradition.
Right, like old-timey music, the old-timey meaning coming from the old country being the British Isles, and creating these, maintaining these stories. And like the more gruesome they are and the more kind of horrible they kind of stick around, those ones keep. And often the names change or the people change, but like Knoxville Girl
by the Louvin Brothers is you've probably heard some of these songs.
I'm sure I probably have
old time country songs.
Yeah, like, sort of bluegrass and country has like perpetuated a lot of them, and a lot of them like are really disturbing and violent.
Horrible.
But there's something about them that's really compelling also, and the way that these songs are used to kind of continue telling the news, but it's not like this information is going to help you, It's not like it's not like a PSA. It's not like there's a murderer on the loose. I'm like, here's what you can do to like not have your your hair strung on a harp made of your own bones. Like
it's usually don't go out with a guy named Willie. It's like Willie.
Oh yeah. Poor Willie.
Poor Willie. No, Willie does a lot of killing. There's Pretty Polly is another one. You've probably heard a lot of these. And
are these like? Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and the thing about this, they're narrative. There's like plot-driven songs, so there's not really a chorus in them. There's not like, a refrain which kind of you return to. It's like verse after verse after verse of like, Willie meeting this girl, and then she getting pregnant, and then he walks her down a path and stabs her and kills her and buries the body, and the ghost comes back. It's like, and people would add, create their own verses and stuff, but there's not like a normal ballad.
It's not like a pop song. It's like it's an older form kind of that predates that.
It's like those old. I guess it's a style of folk music, I'm sure, but it would be about, like fairies and things like that. They're like, I don't know any of them by heart or anything. I've just kind of heard them just like, don't go with the man with the glowing eyes and the big teeth. And,
that kind of thing. Like a PSA.
Yeah. That's a new Lady Gaga tune. I didn't tell you. The big teeth man. The new album, the one that I was contacted about, is called Supernatural History.
Yeah,
I really dig the name. How did you decide on this one? Like, what was it like coming up with a theme? Why focus in on the supernatural at all?
Well, we've always explored supernatural and occult topics in our songs from our first album, and this album, I don't know. Some bands sort of set out to create a group of songs to be an album deliberately. We are more like accumulators usually. So we're always kind of working on something new, and eventually we have enough songs to record an album, and then we're like, well, what do we have here? Like we kind of look at it and draw our conclusions, and this time it seemed like we had a lot of songs that explored the natural world. We have a bat song, we have a manta ray song, we have a song about poisonous plants, and we also have songs about the
witchcraft.
Yes, we have a few
songs about
monsters. We have
some
a
other
mythology song involving the underworld. So this sort of duality of the natural world and the supernatural world, it seemed like natural history together makes supernatural history, much as like magic and science together came out of alchemy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. My favorite on the album is Grimoire. I've listened to it and listened to it and listened. I love that song. I hope you aren't offended by this, because you never know with musicians. But it sort of reminds me, that one particular song, the beat and the way it rolls along, kind of reminds me a little bit of the Mad Caddies. Which I'm a big fan of the Mad Caddies. So
we'll have to check.
That's a compliment, of course.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
That song was inspired by a book that you might be familiar with, which is Pam Grossman's wonderful book, Waking the Witch.
I'm familiar. I was going to ask if you where exactly you got your inspiration for your lyrics and things with that. Do you have any kind of background study in particular into witchcraft? Have either one of you been practicing witches or practicing any part of the occult or anything of that nature? Or is this just something that you're into for the aesthetic, the inspiration, the stories?
I'd say we're more occult adjacent or friendly than actual practitioners. I mean, the more...
Not that we've never done a deliberate ritual.
Of course.
Not that we've never set an intention and like done a deliberate ritual. I would say I'm like a reluctant practitioner. Like I never meant to really do any workings, but like it seems to happen more and more.
Yeah. I think, over the past 10 years, as you get more exposed to things and you meet more and more people who are directly involved with the practice, with different practices, and you kind of start incorporating certain things into your life a little bit more.
I think as artists, like we've really grown to appreciate the power of ritual and like how that works.
And how much arts and crafts and witchcraft and occult practice are intertwined. And the kind of, mystic endeavor of being an artist and,
trying to like channel and invoke, like it's really similar.
It's really similar. And then there's those artists that we love, those visual artists who we love, who also are like practicing, in some sort of occult practice, like Leonora Carrington.
Yeah. There's another great book.
Remedia Sparrow.
Yeah.
And that kind of thing. So.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that we don't identify as witches, but like we roll with witches. Like, I'm like, we're pals with, the folks at the Buckland Museum in Cleveland, and we're pals with the Malloy Brothers in Chicago. Like we are, witch adjacent.
Witch adjacent. Yeah. And with our band, we wind up in some interesting places. And
I'm sure you do.
it's one of the great joys about being in this band.
Yeah,
like,
but it's not just an aesthetic interest. Like it is like a deeper interest. But we're more than tourists, but less than residents.
Sure, that sounds good. Sounds good.
But I mean, through your particular approach to music, being more focused. Of course, you're playing music, but being focused on telling stories. Mm-hmm. Rather than just compiling lyrics that rhyme and sound pretty. You have put yourselves in the historic line of something vitally important to the history of mankind, and that is the storyteller. Ancient societies had their bards and their skalds and their poets, and all of these people were very, very vital to not just record history, but the folklore and pass these mysteries of myth and everything on down to future generations. And I think it's really cool that you've decided to be something more than just somebody who sings some things that rhyme.
Thank you.
Yeah. Your music, this particular album, also features some monsters. What monsters did you choose, and how do you go through a monster choosing process? How's that work?
Well, with the song Monsters, I'm assuming you're referring to the first song on the album. Ellie and I we were working on, we were recording something.
Yeah, we'd taken a few days kind of as like a retreat to do some writing and recording.
And we were like, well, let's both write a song. Let's like separate and like give ourselves like an hour, two to kind of just sit and see what comes up and to kind of come up with a song, and we'll
show and tell.
We'll do a show and tell. And
yeah, which is a practice that like we've done before, where we go into our separate corners and we try to get something on its feet, and then we kind of bring it along together.
Yeah. And after we, an hour and a half later or whatever it was, we were doing the show and tell, and like, well, what's your song about?
Monsters. What's your song about?
Monsters. Hey. And then we really like just meshed the two songs together.
Literally Frankenstein them.
We Frankenstein this. And like musically and lyrically, and it was just amazing. I was amazed that it came out like that.
Yeah. Well, the funny thing is that like I was out on the porch and I was like, I felt like I was getting somewhere with the lyric writing, but I wasn't really happy with my chords. But I was like, Jeff will fix the chords. Like, it'll be fine. Like, well, and then we came back inside and your chords were cool. And like, I immediately forgot what my chords had even been. And then like, we kind of built it on.
But, and even like the bass lines, for example, like we both came up with, when we were recording, we were coming up with the bass lines to play. Like we both came up with separate bass lines that we put them both. Like, let's put them both in.
Yeah.
And
there you go.
I was very happy with that.
I dig it. Yeah, chords. I just recently, well, I say recently, it's been almost 4 years now, started playing guitar at the, I'm 45. I started at the tender age of like 41.
It's a tender age.
Yeah. Mostly because I spent so many years of my life training in various martial arts, and I got really into Brazilian jiu-jitsu and Kali about 12 years prior to that. And I just started getting injured more often, and a couple back-to-back real bad leg injuries. I thought, what else can I do with my hobby money, right? And it occurred to me I always wanted to play guitar, and it turned out I'm not bad at it, so I got mad about not taking it up younger. Sorry, folks, we're going to take a curve into guitar land for a minute. Talking about chords, when do bar chords stop hurting?
When you get a guitar with really easy action.
Yeah, I suppose that's probably part of it. Yeah. I've been told, because I play acoustic, I've not gotten into land of electric guitars yet. I'm always told that our budget is needed elsewhere. I've been told to get a Redondo acoustic, so I have not ventured into it yet, but I'm thinking about it.
I don't know that brand per se. Or you could pick up the ukulele. Not that it's not.
There's always the ukulele.
Yeah, sure. That's what everybody likes to say. There's always the ukulele.
Yeah.
It's when I started playing, I was getting really frustrated trying to get chords to sound correctly, and A major was like my big problem. It would be pretty plunk. And I was told by some friends of mine, they're like, well, your fingers are too fat, you probably can't play guitar. And they meant it.
That's so mean.
So off to Google I went, and I was like, can you play guitar with fat fingers? And the first thing that came up is that dude who played Somewhere Over the Rainbow on a ukulele, weighing like 500 pounds.
Yeah, it is. He's a legend. Yeah, I mean, people play smaller instruments with fatter fingers. Like, you're fine. So
I printed out a picture of him and I put it on my computer. So I would be like, every time I get frustrated, I'd be like, no, there's got to be something to this that I haven't figured out yet. So, yeah, anyway. I salute all of you who can write your own music and play bar chords without pain.
I mean, it's not that there's no pain.
Yeah, I guess you stop worrying about it as much.
Yeah,
it gets easier. There are definitely songs that we play, and like every time we play them, we like shake out our wrists afterwards. Yeah. Like, oh man, that one's just like,
why do we do that?
That one's so hard.
I'll bet. Yeah. We talked a little bit about books and stuff earlier, and of course mythology comes up, and it's clearly an influence on your music. Do you have a particular mythology that's your favorite, or a story out of mythology that you really resonate with and like?
Oh, that's a great question.
I don't know. Like, there's the Greek mythology.
Yeah, I mean, I love that. I love the underworld mythology. And there's a lot of good underworld mythology. I love Persephone and Hades, and we finally have a Persephone and Hades song on this album, which is Succeeds. And I mean, I love that story. I feel like there's so many facets to it. Like, you know, everybody talks about, you know, I say this like it's like recent news. I'm like, everybody talks about how, like, you know, Persephone was like so tricked by Hades, and Demeter's so upset about it that she makes winter cover the earth. But like, you know, maybe Persephone needed to separate from her mom because, like, you know, she was ready to live her own life. And maybe this, like, dark, handsome, mysterious stranger, like, who swept her away. Boy. Yeah, he's kind of a bad boy. He's got this, like, motorcycle or whatever. and he offers her the pomegranate, and she's like, hell yes, I want to stay here half of the time.
Half of the time.
Like, not all the time. Like, I need my own space. I want to get I got to visit my mother. And, you know, but like the part of the story that's about like leaving your birth family to make your own family is sorely neglected, in my opinion.
Yeah,
that's interesting. I like that. It's very insightful. I like the whole image of a Hades on a Harley going, "Hey, girl." You like that pomegranate?
Just like, hey.
But there is separation. It's not like codependent. There is they have their boundaries.
Well, and also it's not like she never returns. Right. It's not like Demeter, you know, Demeter's like, you never call, you never write. And Persephone's like, look, I'm up here 6 months of the year. She's like a snowbird.
Yeah.
That's right. She's a snowbird.
And Hecate is a part of that story too, which is one of my favorite.
What is the Hecate part of that story?
She's a guide with her torches helping Persephone through the underworld.
Of course.
Yeah. Hecate has become quite a very important goddess in current times over the last couple of decades, and only growing more and more important to practitioners of witchcraft. It's been very interesting to watch happen because you just don't see something like that. Like the episode that I just released yesterday features Jason Mankey and Estrella Taylor. They just put out a book called Modern Witchcraft with the Greek Gods. And it's a heavily researched thing where you can pull a lot of that inspiration like you guys are doing with music, but into a modern witchcraft practice. And Jason pointed out something in there that I didn't even think of all these years. He goes, people identify themselves as Hecatean witches, but you don't hear people going around, I'm a Dianic witch, or I'm a Persephone witch, or anything like that. But they definitely do it with Hecate. It's an interesting cultural thing. So I'm looking forward to your Hecate song. That's all I'm saying.
All right, that noted.
3 parts.
Yeah, especially if you're into the underworld. Come on.
You're right. Hecate's overdue. We've got an Orpheus and Eurydice song. We've got a an Osiris and Isis song. Like, we're kind of making our way through various bits of the underworld.
Yeah.
Now, I have not heard the Osiris and Isis song. Does it cover the whole spectrum of their story, or is it focused in on when she's just looking for bits of his penis?
No, it's every bit but the penis, because the crocodile ate the penis.
Crocodile ate the penis. You'll have to listen.
I'll have to listen. I'll take that. You're like an asshole. You're like an asshole magician. You're like, you want to know how the magic trick works?
When we
take that review, Yelp. No.
when we were writing the Osiris and Isis song, and that was literally like, oh, we ought to have an Osiris and Isis song. Like, let's get some books on Egyptology.
Yeah.
We were flying out to the West Coast to do some shows, and like our first stop was this great used bookstore in the Mission, where we found Budge's Budge's Egyptian mythology, and Budge is like kind of discredited, I think, at this point. He comes from that era where like it's very like, Anglo-centric, like, colonialist sort of approaches to the story. But like for our purposes, it didn't really matter because like, well, just because
you just
like,
want to plot.
You just want some like stuff to work with, like, and the stuff that he offered in that book was really evocative and fun. And I mean, I think the real takeaway was that like the storytelling of that story took place over such a long period of time that like at this point there's no like canonical telling. Like that story was told for thousands of years, like by many different people, and so the fragments of papyrus that they have, like they're contradictory, like they say different stuff, like there isn't one truth to find. Like this, it's all these fragments.
It's like those old murder ballads.
And so the song itself like has definitely a more fragmentary, it's more like images that kind of it's more like a collage or a
pointillistic.
Very cool. I saw where you guys are releasing an oracle deck. Why can't I speak today? Words are hard. An oracle deck along with the album. Now, is that part of the album release, or is it separate from the album release?
The oracle deck is part of the Kickstarter that we ran to fund the album and recording.
But it is alongside the album.
Yeah.
Will people be able to get the oracle deck
Yes.
after the Kickstarter?
Yes.
Awesome.
They will be able to get it on our Bandcamp, and pre-orders for that are actually going to open in just a couple of days. So people will be able
all that will be linked up on the show too. What's the story behind the oracle deck? Like who drew it? Did you guys draw it? Did you hire artists?
Oh.
Like what's the theme?
So we'll start at the beginning.
So the background.
That's a good place to start.
Well, so the context is that we've been using the tarot in our artistic practice for a while, and in our performances as well. In our artistic practice, I think it started when we did an artist residency that was like a 2-week long retreat, basically. And every day we would draw a card, and we would kind of learn that card and use it to kind of, organize the day, essentially. And which is a nice way to learn the tarot, like one card at a time over a long period of time.
Mm-hmm.
And, we're using like the Pamela Coleman Smith deck, and, we're sitting with the images and then, doing some reading. So over time do you want to?
Yeah, let's see. So in our live performances, we wanted to we got tired of a couple things. One thing is people talking during our set and like not paying attention and that kind of thing. Because we play lots of different places. Some people don't know that there's a band playing, or, you're playing at a big brewery or what have you.
Right.
And we also got tired of coming up with set lists. I think that was really kind of annoying.
And like what to say in between,
and the patter
songs,
in between songs, and do you introduce like, oh, this song is about Isis and Osiris, blah blah blah. You don't want to like talk too much. You want to just let the song kind of tell the story. So we started using assigning our songs to different cards of the deck.
And then we would have audience members select cards, which would determine what songs we would play. But we also were doing the set as like a Celtic cross spread.
Yeah, so we would have a board behind us, and we would say, all right, this card is the current situation. And I'll have someone pick a card, and they pick the 2 of Pentacles, and then we know that song is Ocean City, right. Because there's like waves in the background, the association might be kind of tenuous, or it might be really direct. Like we have a song called Devil May Care, and that's obviously the devil card. Mm-hmm. So we would have people draw, and they would pick for the different positions of the Celtic cross, and that was our set. 10 songs. And
so we'll travel on a tour. We'll travel with we're not playing with a full deck usually, and we don't have quite enough songs to fill out a complete deck, tarot deck. But we have most of the cards assigned to a song, and then when we're on tour, we'll usually have like a couple dozen or maybe like 30 cards in the bag that people are drawing from to give us a 10 card spread. So there's a little bit of an element of surprise. Also, once when we put the wrong cards in the bag, a large element of surprise. We're like, wait, we're gonna play that song.
But it's cool because people they stop talking once you kind of walk around like, do you want to pick a card? And they're kind of like interested in what's
everybody wants to pick a card.
Everyone's like, oh, what's this? Yeah. What do you do? You're playing music right now? Oh, I didn't know.
And then there's this mystery where what does this mean? Like they played this song after this card.
Oh, I pulled the tower card. And people
right. Oh no.
Yeah. And it kind of gives this other overarching story to, we have, there's narratives within each song, but then there's this larger story that's being told over the Celtic cross.
Yeah, although when we first started doing this, we had only assigned the major arcana, and so every set was oh my god, so intense.
Yeah, all the kind of tarot people in the audience were like, "Wow, you picked!
Oh my god, the tower and the high priestess!" And we're like, "Yeah, those are the cards that we've got assigned to the song." So we've been doing this for a bunch of years now.
Yeah.
And we, for a long time, have talked about making our own, should we make our own tarot deck? Wouldn't it be nice if the cards were a little more closely related to the songs? Right. And also our songs deal in these archetypes and characters as well. Wouldn't it be nice to have a card for the secretary or the showgirl or other characters who show up in our songs? And so when we were planning the Kickstarter for this album, which was going to cover, a lot of the production costs involved making vinyl and stuff like that, we're like, this is the opportunity, and we actually have enough songs now because this is our 5th album, and which means that's 50 songs plus another 10 singles we've put out over the years. That's actually enough different cards to be statistically significant, if you will. Yeah. For doing a divination, a cartomancy kind of divination. We commissioned about 24 artists.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Folks that we've met, some are friends, some are people that whose work we really liked, and we became kind of connected.
Some were fans who made fan art that we liked, and so we asked if they wanted to do an assignment. And so it was really an opportunity to include a lot of people in what is usually a 2-person project, and they made beautiful images, and we are now waiting for the decks to get shipped to us, but they're in production as we speak, and we've gotten digital proofs, and they look gorgeous. We're really excited.
Yeah, it is an eclectic deck.
Yeah. Everybody's style is very different.
Everyone's style is very different.
Yeah, I was thinking. When you said that you had so many artists involved, it's like an Alleyman's tarot.
It's like an Alleyman's tarot. Yeah, it looks a lot like that.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's pretty cool. A friend of mine, former guest on the show too, Meredith Graves.
Oh yeah,
we know her.
Yeah, we know Meredith.
You know Meredith?
I think that's how we know about you, is through Meredith.
Oh yeah, Meredith is awesome.
Yeah, she's great.
I'm sure she'll be listening to this one too. So shout out to
Meredith.
I love you, homie. She does a thing where she finds cards, and I think it's just fantastic.
Oh, that's cool.
Oh
yeah,
that's cool. We have found a couple, but not enough to make a deck.
Yeah. I've never, in all the places I've gone, found tarot cards on the ground. I found playing cards aplenty, but never have I found a tarot card just discarded and thrown on the ground.
We found one in a mausoleum.
Yeah.
What was the card?
Do you remember what the card was?
That's a message from the dead.
I know. I mean, I think
it was like the ace of...
Take a picture of it? You got it on the wall?
We have it. We have a lot of tarot cards on the shelf up above us. I think it's behind there somewhere.
Yeah.
That's very cool.
There's a lot of weird Polaroids.
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff up there.
All right, well...
If we find it, we'll tell you.
No, that sounds fun anyway. Do you have like a favorite tarot deck? Do you work with tarot away from the stage to like read it for other purposes?
I mean, for my own use, I have a deck that I like. But
I've got a couple favorites.
Yeah.
What are your favorites?
My current favorite is the Pulp Tarot by Todd Alcott. I don't know if you've seen that one.
I don't think I have.
It's very beautiful, and it's based. I mean, it's the images are based very closely on the Pamela Coleman Smith images, but they are drawing imagery from like pulp novel covers, and so they're very gorgeous. They're very stylized and stylish. And they kind of quote the original. So like the chariot is like this gorgeous car with like two dogs, like elegant dogs in the back seat. Like it's really cool. Yeah, it's really cool, and it's so clever, and it's very beautiful. And what I love about the Pamela Coleman Smith deck is that like the images are really like there for you to use your intuition with. Mm-hmm. And so and this one, because it's quoting those images visually, like lets you still kind of do that without having to think back and be like, wait, like what is that one again?
Yeah.
Like
you were talking about earlier the Two of Pentacles coming up. Mm-hmm. and immediately made my mind go to Marcus Katz and Tally Goodwin wrote a book called Secrets of the Waite-Smith Tarot. One thing I loved about that was that they have really pushed forward this notion to call that deck the Waite-Smith Tarot, or something to that degree, or the Pamela Coleman Smith Tarot, or so on, to kind of get Ryder out of it.
Yeah. What did Ryder do?
What did he do?
Yeah, they published it once. Anyway, I remember we were at a tarot conference in Dallas years ago, and Marcus was given this presentation about this project they were working on that became that book. And the Two of Pentacles was a big one because he was talking about how it's tied to the magician and all this other stuff, and the way all these things relate to each other. Yeah. And then we got into the magician being a con man. And like all this really cool stuff. So if you like tarot, what I'm saying, and you like to use that one, go get that book and see what other ideas you can pluck out of it for another 3 or 4 albums.
Yeah, it sounds like you should send us a reading list or something.
Oh, you don't want me to do that? I'd send you pictures of the book disaster I have in this house. I mean, I swear books just make love overnight and have baby books in the morning. They're everywhere.
Little pamphlets in the morning.
Yeah. But you tell me what you're into. I'll be happy to make recommendations.
Well, we would definitely love to know what that book is.
Yeah.
That's one that I do highly recommend if you're into tarot and you're reading in that Waite-Smith tradition.
Yeah. We love that.
I really love Michelle T's tarot book also. I don't know if you've seen that one. She's an artist, a writer, and a visual artist, and she's like very into. She's read tarot for a long time. She's very low on woo, which I appreciate, but she also has like a really deep relationship with the cards, and I really appreciate her approach. It's sort of intuitive and matter of fact, and kind of like a, I don't know, wise older sister kind of voice. Like she's cool. Like
there you go.
She talks about the sun card. She's like, it's a naked baby on a horse. Like this is you. Like you're going for it. Like woohoo.
It's a naked baby on a horse.
Come on.
What? Jesus, lady, you're in trouble.
That's good. It's good news.
I don't know about you, but a naked baby on a horse means good things. But
that's right.
Yeah, okay. I might have to check that one out. It sounds like it's interesting.
Oh, yeah, this one too. We like this one. Carnival at the End of the World deck.
Carnival at the End of the World deck. I like the title. Was that a Kickstarter deck or one you bought mass market?
It's probably started as a Kickstarter, as a lot of these newer tarot decks seem to proliferate.
I think we were gifted this one though.
But this was a gift. Yeah, there's I don't know. There's some cool imagery.
Okay, that is pretty cool.
Yeah, they have some bonus cards in there too that aren't in the traditional
like a bonus
deck.
card, but it's very different than the writer, the Smith.
Yeah, it's a little different,
but
you can see it's in that same tradition.
It
comes
still
through.
Yeah, it's cool.
Yeah, I'm thinking through my entire deck collection. I'm like, what would be one that they would like?
What's your favorite? What do you use?
My favorites, like one of my go-to ones I read with all the time is the Lightseer Tarot by Chris Ann. It was a Kickstarter. It's beautiful. She used like real people, her friends are all painted into the cards.
Oh, yeah.
That's cool.
It's vibrant. It's a lot of colors. I really, really like it. I like the Everyday Witch Tarot. I don't know why. It's just, I love the artwork.
Have you ever seen the Bee Nettles Tarot?
The what one?
The Bee Nettles.
Bee Nettles. BEA.
Nettles. No.
That one we've got.
It's from the 70s.
It's got another name. I forget what the other name is. But it's photographs, like photo collages that she made with like the people she knew.
Yeah.
And it's very fun. Like 1970s, and there's a lot of like improvising with like regular objects. So like the pentacles are like frisbees with like stars painted on them.
Yeah.
People and like the sun card has like her dog.
Oh right, it's like it's not a lion, it's like her dog. Yeah,
it's really cool.
It's really like kind of homespun and lovely, but also really speaks to like, I don't know, the power of intention in ritual. That like it doesn't matter what the tools are necessarily, like as long as you're imbuing them with the significance that you need,
using what's around.
Right. Yeah. I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm such an evangelist of Aidan Walker's book 6 Ways. It's all about like you've got to get yourself in a right mindset to practice sorcery or magic or witchcraft or any of that by surrounding yourself with the things that get you into that mindset that resonate with you, not somebody 2,000 years ago or the guy across the street, but you know, that kind of thing, which is pretty cool. Yeah. What would you guys tell somebody who wants to get into this, who thinks they want to try their hand at a musical path, telling stories, and what warning would you give them?
Don't
do it.
Don't ruin your life. I mean,
it really depends on the person and their like what gets them excited about that. I mean, anything that gets you excited, like whether it's just, making sounds on an instrument and kind of working from that, or if it's writing poetry or just writing your ideas and starting from that. I didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh no, I mean, there's so many ways to interpret the question because there's so many facets to this. I mean, like there's writing, there's like making the thing, right? There's sharing the thing with other people, and there's performing, and some of us are junkies for the stage, like that connection with an audience, like it is a sickness that some of us have, and I definitely have it, and I but I think that is separate from like the art making impulse, and it's separate from the there are storytellers who have stage fright and don't enjoy like performing live, but they write books, and that, for instance. So I don't know, I'm not sure what the advice is specifically, because it is so personal for everyone, how they want to go
that's
about
fair.
And it's if you have a goal of wanting to tell stories in some way, and musically in some way, like I guess in some sung way, or there's no way to go about it that's right or wrong. Like, it's just making it how you want. And like, once you I feel like this has happened with us. Once we started on this path, we're like, oh, we're just going to write some songs together.
Yeah, no pressure, no big deal. This will be our fun side project.
This is our fun side project. And then here we are making our own Oracle deck. Like, it's just ballooned because we've just followed the things that interested us.
Yeah.
And,
yes.
And to have someone to be accountable to and to be like, to share in this project, for me personally, has been very helpful. Like, just to get off my ass and do something.
Yeah. So I guess to distill it, trust your voice, be true to the thing that you're making, and don't try to guess what people will like, because you'll be wrong anyway. And if you can, find a buddy.
Yeah. Or if you don't like people, that's fine too.
Or don't find a buddy. But like, I mean, your buddy doesn't have to be the buddy that you are making things with, but like having some sort of accountability partner / show and tell victim is like helpful.
That's what I am. I'm your show and tell victim.
Mutual show and tell victim. That's our other band name.
Yeah, I like it.
I like it. Yeah, mutual show and tell victim. Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's a good place to come to an end of the regular part of the show. Is there something that I should have asked, or something you'd like to talk about that I didn't cover, or any parting thoughts you'd like to share?
Oh, we have lots of tour dates coming up. If people want to see us live, we're going to be going all over the country. We're going to be in New York City and Massachusetts and the West Coast in March. We're going to be in the Midwest in April, and we're going to be in the Southeast at the end of May. And if people want to find out where we're going to be, they can always go to our website, charmingdisaster.com/shows, to see where we're headed.
Awesome. And of course, go to charmingdisaster.com for all the rest.
That's right.
Right.
That's right.
Yeah.
All right.
Well, our stuff is all over the place.
Yeah.
We're on Spotify, and we're on Apple Music and iTunes and Amazon and all the things. Yeah, we're easy to find in the places.
Yeah, me too. I totally get it.
You just hit that distribute button and it goes out.
Right. Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. Okay. We're going to take the rest of this conversation over for the Patreon members. But before I do, I want to thank you for giving us all the time, giving the listeners time. Thank you so much. This has been a great deal of fun.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. It's been so lovely talking to you. And it's really, you're right that this is not like our usual interviews, and it's been really fun talking books and occult stuff with you.
Yeah. Yay. All right. And everybody listening, here's the drill. If you're new here, it'll be the first time. Otherwise, you've all heard it before, and you should be following the advice. If you want to hear the rest of this conversation, you need to go to weirdwebradio.com, click join the membership, or go to patreon.com/weirdwebradio and come be part of the family. Tell your friends, your family, and even your familiars to join the Weird Web Radio tribe. Okay. Stay weird out there, my friends. And now it is bonus time.
Yay, bonus time.
Yay! Ellia and Jeff, are you ready?
We're ready.
We're ready.
All right. First question is always the same for bonus audio time. What famous person's resting place do you most want to visit, and why?
Oh. I would like...
Do you want to hear how they just answered that question? What famous person's resting place would you most like to visit? That and many others, including what they think about the afterlife, what they may or may not do in cemeteries, what are their traditions and magical practices that have to do with the dead, folklore that surrounds their homes, and so much more, available for only $5. $5 a month. Even if I make more than one episode in a month, it's still just $5 a month at patreon.com/weirdwebradio, or go to weirdwebradio.com and click join the membership. You can find me on Instagram at weirdwebradio. You can find me on Facebook as Weird Web Radio, or come join the new, fun, and exciting Weird Web Radio Facebook group. Thank you again for being here. Stay weird out there, my friends.